Good evening, everyone.
Mike.
Hello, if everybody, please take your seats.
I don't think your mic's on.
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, I saw it now.
Welcome, everyone, to our Fruita City Council meeting. If you guys would please find a seat, we're going to go ahead and get this meeting started.
Shannon, is that on?
Oh, those in the back of the room, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. If you'd like to please find a seat. All right, it's 7:02 p.m. and we're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Deb, would you please call roll?
Counselor Bremen.
Here.
Counselor Purser.
Here.
Counselor Williams. Counselor Cry is excused absent. Counselor Miller was going to be virtual, but we'll count her excused absent for right now. Counselor O'Brien.
Present.
All right. With that, we're going to move into our moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. So if you would all please stand with us. We'd like to take this opportunity for silent prayer to allow for all faiths and beliefs that opportunity. Thank you. If you please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we've got an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, Mr. Mayor, but we do have a change just to a consent item J. There was a minor change to the memo of agreement for the Safe Streets Action Plan grant. And I provided copies there for you, hard copies, and the packet was updated about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Deb. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with that change?
I move we approve the agenda with the suggested changes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
All right, we're going to move into our proclamations and presentations. We've got one presentation tonight, and that's our town hall meeting with our county commissioners. And so the way we're going to do this, just so everybody knows in the audience, we're going to start and turn it over to the county commissioners. And then we're going to follow that by questions with our city council. And then from there, we're going to open it up to any audience comments for the county commissioners. And we always ask that you limit those comments to 3 minutes. The other thing that we're asking is that you limit those comments to items specific to the Fruita area. And so we're going to allow approximately 30 minutes devoted to this item on city council. So I'd ask our county commissioners to come on up. We've got some seats up here for you guys, and then we're going to go ahead and turn it over. You guys are in charge now.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you guys having us tonight. I would also like to maybe give our Representative Matt Soper an opportunity, maybe just to quickly say something. I know he represents this area and as well, and he's very interested in what you guys have to say. So Matt, you want to maybe come up and say a few things, and you've got 1 minute.
Yeah, I was
We're
gonna
gonna yank
say,
you.
Matthew's running the timer. So if you want to step up the microphone, because anybody online won't be able to hear unless you're.
Sounds perfect. Well, I just wanted to say I want to be here in person to be able to listen and to hear what's going on. And it's really valuable for me as your state representative to hear the questions that are being asked and also hear the answers as well. So my role tonight is really in a listening role. But thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Also wanted to recognize some staff and maybe other electeds that we have tonight. We got Assessor Ken Brownlee, our Treasurer Sheila Reiner. We've got Scott May with Public Works, and then our County Attorney Todd Starr back in the back, and then our County Administrator Pete Bear. So want to appreciate all that they do for this county. They do a lot. We just allocate the money and tell them what to do, but they do all the hard work. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Appreciate that.
We'll be taking all the hard questions.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's any state related questions, we're going to push them to Matt Soper. So deflect, right? Anyways, no, we we've got a lot of stuff we're doing, but we really want to open this up to the council and you guys just to ask questions and see what's on your guys' mind out here in Fruita. So I guess we'll open up to you guys first. If you guys have any questions for us and then we'll shoot it out to the audience.
All right, anybody want to start? Or do you
I talk to them all the time.
have any tough questions for them? Yeah, or easy questions?
Give us some softball questions, right?
No, I think we're happy with the partnership. I know we, try and keep in touch, and I think you guys, what I'm happy about is that we get a lot of interaction with you guys, and so I think that's been positive. And I know our staff works with your staff on a lot of projects, and so we do appreciate all the partnerships and everything that you guys bring to Fruita for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So that makes it easy.
Does, right? Hey, Commissioner McGinnis, we had a big decision today, big announcement from the feds. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit.
I think it was Will Rogers that said the sweetest sound in the world is when somebody takes a shot at you and you hear it go by. Well, today that shot went right by us when the federal government announced on the Colorado River that the cutbacks are going to come from Arizona and the state of Nevada, the upper basin states. And by the way, they've been overusing their water down there. Our concern was that under the scope of equity or some other type of theory, they would ignore how much water California and Arizona have taken that they're not entitled to or haven't been accounted to, Nevada to a smaller scale. But that's not what happened. So the feds said today, Arizona, you're going to take about a 21%. That's about 550,000 acre feet. That's a lot of water. It's Phoenix, Scottsdale. They're going to, and they had to take a big cutback this year because they're junior in the water rights. And then Nevada doesn't take a lot of water, but they have two primary cities. So they're going to have to take significant cutbacks. But at any rate, as you've all read about the Colorado, I won't go into that because that's at length, but that's very, very good news for us. Now here in the Valley, we really have special protection because we have like the senior water, very close to the senior water rights on the Colorado River, plus our drinking water, your Fruita reservoirs up on the Monument or up on the up in Colburn with Ute Water, City of Grand Junction. So, and we get the water first. So we have superior rights. The problem with that is we've got what everybody else wants. The Colorado River is the most litigated river in the United States. So we have had, but we're going to continue to have continuous litigation. And everybody talks about how, you can do Kumbaya law and we can all meet in the middle. And Denver always wants us to meet in the middle. Why don't we just give us half your water now, And that's not how it works with water. It's going to be tough, slugging and fighting, and we're ready for it. And I'll wrap it with this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And that is our guardian angel over here is the Colorado River Conservation District. That's headquartered in Glenwood Springs. We have a board of 15 members. I represent Mesa County, do the appointment by my two colleagues. And Mesa County is by far the largest of the 15 members as far as population. We have the most senior water rights and we have the best quality of water, and we have the largest quantity. But we only have an equal vote to 14 other counties that are in there with us. So it's always a challenge. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair. And that really, we were all talking about, oh boy, we're not going to get water at our podium anymore, but no, we're in good. It's done good. And by the way, we had a good winter. We're having a great summer. And so keep our fingers crossed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you want to add anything before we open it up or? Okay. If you want to come now, we're going to try to keep it to a minimum of, or maximum rather of 3 minutes on the dialogue and the questions, just so that we can get through everybody and get these guys back to their regular business. So if you want to come now and ask questions, please come.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a hard one. I'm just kidding. I just want to recognize that we live in a great country. We live in a really awesome county. And I want to just thank you for your service to continually uplifting and upholding God's freedoms that he's given us. And I think it's important to acknowledge those freedoms too. And that I'm just going to pray over this meeting tonight. So anybody that would like to join me, please do. So Father, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for our city council members, our mayor, and our commissioners here tonight. I thank you for all of our public servants that are willing to put themselves out there to stand in the gap, that truly are committed to bettering our community. I thank you for being a bridge. I thank you that you are teaching us what it means to come together for the good of our county and to stop the polarization. I thank you that you're tearing down this silo mentality and you're allowing us to come together across the divide. I cry out to you and ask for healing amongst our people in Mesa County. And I ask that you would give our leaders here wisdom and discernment in how to do it, and that they would continue to make decisions that would bless us, and that we would recognize that, and that we would, as citizens, uphold them in prayer. So I just thank you, Yahweh, and praise your name. Amen. Thank you.
Anybody else? Don't get shy. Yes. Hola, buenas noches.
I would like to request that anyone that would like to get up and speak, please state their name for the record.
Ricky Howie, Grand Junction. Today, the county commission sent a letter about the gray wolves. Could you explain the basis for that letter to us?
Sure.
Thank you.
So as you know, the gray,
Speak up just a tad.
you bet.
I'm old, I'm hard of hearing, and I just need you a little bit louder. Thank
Ricky,
you.
Ricky, do you prefer English or Spanish? Because this morning you spoke to us in Spanish, so I just want to clarify. Okay. So we sent a letter this morning to the federal government, basically requesting that they allow a 10J exception to wolves. For those of you who don't know, wolves are going to be here on the ground at some point in the future, and they're an endangered species, which means there's no lethal forms of management for wolves. So if they grow out, if the population grows to an unmanageable level, we can't do anything about it. And so the 10J rule allows us to operate outside that exception. And if we are unable to manage that population, they can move to lethal forms of management like they do with elk population, bear population, and other forms of wildlife population. They didn't manage well in Wyoming and Montana and places like that. And the wolf population blew up and out of control. And you saw populations like the moose and deer and elk diminish greatly. So we are asking them to approve it with a 10J exception so that we can have more flexibility to manage that population, because the wolves are coming. The voters voted on it. Yeah, we can complain all we want about it, but it's coming. So we're asking for better ways to manage herds moving forward. So that was the letter this morning that we sent to the federal government, just requesting that designation.
If I might add, so I've been in elected office for 30 years, and there's only been one item that I've never had a disagreement on, that people have always spoken positively about and very strongly about it. And that's, and they really anticipate or look for the enjoyment of being able to see a moose on the Grand Mesa. When we put moose up there, everybody loves it. If they bring a wolf pack, remember the moose generally runs solo. They bring a wolf pack, the director, the former regional director of Division of Wildlife told me the moose population would be totally eliminated within 2 years up there. And same with the elk population, the calves, and so on. People see these images of elks as if they're some princely animal that will get along with everything else. They're a predator, and they'll have a lot of consequences to other than livestock as well. But that's getting all the attention. People don't really realize what the impact will be to our moose population, which we feel very strongly about. Thank you.
Yeah. Any further questions this morning or this evening? I'm used to doing our meetings in the morning. This evening. Come on, guys. Anything? Snide remarks, we'll take them.
Can I ask, is there an
Absolutely.
update on TMDL?
Nothing's happened since the last update. We're obviously gathering more information on TMDLs and water quality and stuff like that. For those of you who don't know the TMDL issue, and Scott May would be much better to speak about this. So if he wants to, he can. But what we're dealing with is kind of an arbitrary standard. When the CDPHE sets a standard of water quality needs to be here, cleaner than it even comes in the valley, then we have to basically be set to a standard that we can't possibly meet here in the valley, which could cost upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars in kind of mitigation. So we're asking, because we're the ones collecting the data, so we're asking CDPHE to pump the brakes and consider actual data here on the ground before they just kind of set an arbitrary number, which just seems that what they were beginning to do. So we haven't heard anything since, but
So the next step is we have to get back to them, or are we waiting for them to get to us?
I'm gonna defer that to Scott because
Scott, you're gonna have to come up and talk to the mic because anybody online won't be able to hear you.
Sorry, Scott.
see, this is the value of having staff because they know what they're talking about.
So we have submitted comments to them and we're waiting. They had a 30-day period to respond to our comments. It's been more than 30 days, but we're still waiting for that response. We are also working on getting through our attorney's office, getting some staff as well as some outside help on how we're going to deal with this if it does get to that point. So, but we are waiting for them right now.
Okay. So any day is really what it could be. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Good. And I think this was actually a unifying thing. I mean, we had Fruita, Junction, Palisade County, we had the airport, we had a bunch of different authorities who were saying, yeah, this could be a big problem if they kind of put these arbitrary standards in place without using basically the local data that we've collected. So it's a great question. So.
Mr. Chair, if I might, maybe Mr. Rowland could kind of describe what we've done with Tabor and what's about to happen on the refund and so on.
Yeah, we just voted today to put this item on the ballot. So Tabor has the piece of it that limits the revenue we can bring in, and anything we bring in over the limit of that revenue that year has to be refunded to the voters. The problem is 55% of the revenue that came in that put us over the limit came from our general fund. But we have to refund 100% of that overage from the general fund because as it stands now, we can't take it out of our capital fund, which comes from the sales tax. It's the 1 cent of the 2 cent that was earmarked for capital funds when the voters voted in 1982. So what we put on the ballot today was to ask the voters, are you okay if we refund money from both the general fund and the capital fund? That will give us a little more flexibility. The general fund is where we pay things out, such as our sheriff, our DA, Parks and Rec, those types of things that people want and expect us to have. And the capital fund, of course, we want those as well, but it's just hard when it all has to come from the general fund, the bulk of which is from public safety would be the sheriff, the DA, those types of things. So that's an item we put on. Did I spin? The what? Oh, yeah, and it is not a tax increase. The first words in the ballot question is without raising any taxes. We're doing this. So it's just simply a matter of within our budget, are the voters okay if we take some of the refund from our capital instead of 100% from our general fund? It's easier to put off paving a particular road for 12 months than it is to lay off 17 deputies. So that's what we're asking the voters. Then it'll be up to the voters to decide.
And I know many of you are probably thinking about this question in your head, so I'm going to ask it for you. And that is, why send checks out this year for the Tabor refund rather than doing a mill levy holiday, if you will? And we went through this a lot. We put a lot of thought and effort into this, and we felt like checks to the people would be the best way. For example, and I may get these numbers not quite right, and Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the top 22 or 23 out of the top 25, 23 of those people don't even live in the community. And so the tax refund would go out of this community. There are 50,000 property owners in Mesa County, and there's 104,000 approximately voters. So, and if you think about it, Clifton, for example, the majority of people who live in Clifton actually rent their home. And so they wouldn't see a tax decrease or a holiday or see that money come back to them. It would go to the landlord or whoever owns the property. They're definitely involved in paying that tax indirectly because they pay rent, and then the landlord or the landowner would then remit the tax to the proper authorities, but they never see that rebate. And so, low income people, they're definitely instrumental in paying that tax. They also pay a lot of sales tax as well, but we usually use only the property tax mechanism to return it. So this year we thought, what's the best way to return this to where the most people get the most money? And what's the best list to use? And honestly, the most accurate list of people who work, live, and pay taxes in Mesa County is the voter rolls. Is it perfect? No, it's not. We've already had people email us and say, I'm not on the voter rolls, I want my money. And I said, well, go register to vote. But so we felt like that was the best way. And some people said, well, why didn't you use state income tax information? Well, we don't privy to state income tax information. People don't file income tax here in Mesa County. They file it for the state. So we're not privy to that information. So the most accurate and best list that we have to get the most money to the most people is the voter rolls as of August 1st. So you guys should probably see those checks in the mail if you're a registered voter by sometime in October is kind of where we're shooting for. And it's going to be approximately $122 per registered voter. So that's that. Any further questions this evening? And you guys were easy. Gateway just hammered us, right? So, well, guys, thank you so much for having us. We want to let you guys know that we are open. We love to have one-on-one sit downs. So if this is an intimidating environment for you to ask questions or even make side remarks, we'd love to sit down with you one-on-one and hear your concerns. So again, thank you to the City of Fruita Council for allowing us to come tonight and barge in on your, yeah, absolutely. So we'll let you guys get back to it.
We appreciate you guys being here and just the opportunity to have you come out, and I'm glad it was easy on you tonight. That shows you how great Fruita is.
Right. We're coming back next year.
Go to Hot Tomatoes, get something to eat, have a beer. It's all good.
And we do, we also, we have a lot of partnerships. The landfill's an important partnership. Get some of the movement you could take in that. We don't want that thing to get in trouble.
Yeah, no. Oh, you don't have to. We can, I mean, we're good. That's what staff's here for, right? No. But I appreciate your willingness to do that. No.
Below your pay grade, apparently, Matt. Jeez, buddy.
It's above his pay grade. Is that what you said?
Oh, below. It was below.
He's taking another mint now because he's. All right, are we ready? All right, with that, if anybody'd like to have conversations, we'd ask you to move it out into the hallway. All right, thank you. With that, we're going to move into our next section of our agenda, which is public participation. So this is time that we set aside for city council to listen to comments by the public regarding items that do not otherwise appear on the agenda. Generally, the city council will not take action on these items. So if there's anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on something not on the agenda, now would be the time. Is there anybody online that wants to speak?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, we're going to close public participation and move into our consent agenda. So our consent agenda, all these items or conditions or requirements have been agreed to or met prior to the time they come before council for final action. We'll vote on all these with one motion. So with that, I'm going to open up the consent agenda to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on something on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. Are you seeing any?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, we're going to close the consent agenda and bring it back to council. Are there any questions or do we have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, with that, we're going to move into our public hearings. We've got several of those tonight. So just so the audience knows, we've got several quasi judicial hearings. So we start with a staff presentation, then we turn it over to the applicant, and then we will open up each one of these for public comment before we bring it back to council. So our first item is a special event liquor permit. And so we're going to go ahead and turn that over to our Deputy City Clerk, Deb Woods.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Deb Woods, Deputy City Clerk for the City of Fruita, presenting the special event liquor permit application submitted by the Fruita Area Chamber of Commerce to have a beer garden at the final fourth Friday on August 26th here at Civic Center Memorial Park from 4 to 10 p.m. The Fruita Chamber has submitted all the necessary paperwork and paid the fee to apply for a special event liquor permit. And in your packet, there's a diagram of the proposed licensed premises which will encompass the park that will be fenced. Chamber board members, employees, and volunteers will be monitoring that licensed area and the consumption of alcohol to ensure that no alcohol leaves or enters the area, and that patrons will be monitored for signs of being noticeably intoxicated. The chamber will also be checking IDs and issuing wristbands to those who are 21 or over. There will be signage posted at each entrance and exit saying no alcohol beyond this point. Servers of the event will be trained in intervention procedures concerning the sale and service of alcoholic beverages. And Fruita Chief of Police Dave Kraus reviewed the chamber's application and issued his statement that there was nothing that would prevent the issuance of the license being requested. So it is staff's recommendation to the city council that the application for the special event liquor permit be approved, subject to 3 conditions. 1, the entrance and exit shall be monitored closely and continuously by event staff in order to prevent alcohol beverages from going in or out of the licensed area. 2, the licensee needs to be aware that they are solely responsible for control of the licensed premises. And 3, all other procedures that were presented by the chamber will be followed. So my recommended motion for you is to move to approve the special event liquor permit for the Fruita Chamber for the Food and Brews event, subject to the conditions stated by staff. We do have Michael with the chamber attending virtually. And Michael, do you have any additional comments you would like to add?
Not necessarily. I think you covered it fairly well. Like she said, we'll have the fencing around the beer garden area. The chamber and staff will be selling beer tickets, and then the Suds Brothers Brewery and Copper Club will actually be serving the beer.
All right, thank you, Michael. With that, we're going to open it up to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on this item? Hearing none here. Are you seeing any, Shannon, online?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to council. Are there any questions for the chamber or for staff?
Can we comment on how dope Mike's backdrop
Yeah,
is?
you can.
That is phenomenal. Good job, Mike.
All right. If there's no other questions, do we have a motion? Do you have one, James?
Sure. I move to approve the application for the special events liquor permit for the Fruita Area Chamber of Commerce to sell and serve beer at the Food and Brews event in Civic Center Memorial Park.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. Our second hearing tonight is ordinance 2022-17. It's a second reading, and we've got our city planner, Henry Hemphill, here to present on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Good to be with you tonight. I'm going to give the staff presentation on ordinance 2022-17 and 2022-18 together. It's an annexation and a rezone or a zoning application for the same property. Just feel that might just go a little faster and less redundant if I do both presentations. But just as you all know, each application is separate, so the deliberation and the discussion on the application should be separate from one another. In addition to the motions, those should be separate as well. So like the mayor said, the Latigo annexation, it's an ordinance 2022-17. This is a second reading of an ordinance that was introduced last month. Land development application 2022-18, again, the Latigo annexation. JLM Development LLC, which is the property owner, has requested approval to annex the property, which is approximately 5 acres in the city limits, and it's located at 1834 J Road. The annexation legal notice is set forth by both our land use code and state statute. Both have been satisfied with regards to the time frame between public hearing dates and issuance of that legal notice. So you can see here, it's quite a few dates to hit on the schedule, but all legal notice has been accomplished in accordance with state statute and our land use code. Here's two photos. One is the buffer on the right side. This is where we send our legal notice postcards to inform property owners around the subject property of the land development application being considered. And then we are required to post legal notice signs on the property, just in case there's some passerby folks that are interested in what's going on. They could also see the application there. It's in a conspicuous area along J Road, and the information on those signs tells the public what's going on and when to attend these public hearing meetings and what dates those are. Here's an aerial photograph on the right of the subject property, and then a zoning map on the left. You can see its relation in proximity to the Fruita Monument High School and the 8-9, in addition to the already existing subdivisions to the east. You can, the zoning around there is mostly community residential. Here's our a clip of our future land use map, which is contained in our comprehensive plan. So what we use probably daily in our office, and what we use to guide decisions with you as the city council, but also the planning commission and private property owners. When annexation questions come about, we pull this out and we have a discussion. This is within our urban growth boundary. It's been kind of enclaved by the city limits for quite some time. And at one point in the past, in 2008, it was actually a project that was considered at the time, but the economy kind of shifted and they withdrew the application for annexation, zoning, and subdivision. So we're back, and it's still supported in our master plan to be within the city limits. The land use code contemplates 9 criteria that must be considered for annexations. The staff report highlights all of these in greater detail, and I'd be glad to answer any specific questions that you may have. But through the findings of the criteria, they either can or have been met. The one I do want to talk about is the water and ditch rights. They do have 7 irrigation shares that they've proven. We just need to get a headgate report that allocates those 7 shares to the right place to get it to the subject property. The applicants represent, or the property owner is here tonight, can touch more on that, but we'll review that stuff more along the lines when there's a subdivision application. There have been no written public comments received to date. No reviewer expressed any concerns, and staff does recommend approval of this annexation with 2 conditions: additional dedication of right-of-way along J Road to a line that's 35 feet from the center line to get the adequate right-of-way needed to finish out that road section, and then the standard 14-foot multi-purpose easement that we typically require along all rights of ways. Just that dedication. If a subdivision application weren't to come in, then we would still have the adequate right-of-way and some multi-purpose easement for utilities. That concludes the annexation portion of the presentation, and I'll jump right into the second reading of ordinance 2022-18. This obviously is a rezone application. State statute doesn't require that annexation applications and zoning applications run concurrently. State statute requires that properties that are recently annexed be zoned within 90 days. However, to consolidate these for the timing purposes of public hearings and meetings and so on, it's pretty typical that they combine the requests together. So that's why we're seeing this here tonight. They're requesting a community residential zone, which is supported in our future land use map that I'll get to in a moment. Just for the record, to touch on legal notice again, the requirements have been met. This one is strictly set forth in our land use code. There's a buffer of 350-foot radius informing the public of both the planning commission meeting and tonight's meeting for second reading of an ordinance. And then the public notice signs located on the property that are visible from the right-of-way or in a conspicuous area. Again, a zoning map to show kind of the surrounding areas and land uses, and then an aerial photograph again of the subject property. Future land use map, again, kind of recommends community residential, which is in the future land use map as residential. It's our primary residential zone district north of the interstate. And then the review criteria, there are 5 that need to be considered, only 2 need to be met. There are and or statements in there, which delegates whether or not they all need to be or just a few. This first one must be met. The proposed amendment is compatible with surrounding land uses pursuant to section 17.05080C and is consistent with the city's goals, policies, and master plan. Again, as I highlighted before, community residential is supported zone district in this area, and that is the request from the applicant tonight. And then number 5, the zoning amendment is incidental to the annexation, so it's accompanying with, and the proposed zoning is consistent with the city's goals, policies, and master plan. It'd be the only recommended zone supported in our guiding documents. No written public comments have been received to date, and no reviewer expressed any concerns with the zoning request, and staff recommends that the subject property be zoned community residential. Here are suggested motions. The page numbers in the council packet are highlighted there. I'd be glad to throw this up again once you guys are ready to discuss, but that concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Henry. And you said the applicant is here? All right, did you want to come up and state your name for the record and then add any additional comments for this?
Eric Marquez with Apex Consulting Engineers and also representing the ownership as well. What we're planning on this parcel, because we've been hearing a lot of applications in Fruita, because I also do a lot of traffic engineering. So you're going to see me regularly with a lot of applications coming up with concerns about that as well. But anyway, I've noticed attainability for housing is a big concern. So the intent with this parcel is to come up with 18 to 20 dwelling units where we'll have a mix of single family and some duplexes. And the duplex obviously is going to be meant to be for the attainable part of that. The other part that is important to my wife and I is that those duplexes will either be type A or B ADA units as well. So they will either be accessible immediately or they'll be adaptable. So that's part of it. I do have another point, a clarification. The economic downturn, I think we usually call that the Great Recession. So yeah, we were a victim of that. And then one last note is a latigo is a piece of a saddle, in case anybody was curious. So that's all I had.
All right, well, thank you. With that, we're going to open up to public comments. So if there are any questions for you from council or from public, we'll have you come back up. So we're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak on either 2022-17 or 22-18 from the audience? Hearing none. Are you seeing anybody online?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, I'm going to bring it back to council. Are there any questions or comments? We are going to need 2 motions for each, one for each item.
I have a question.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, for my own edification. What is a headgate report? So I understand what we're waiting on.
Yeah, headgate report is a report that shows what headgate the irrigation shares are coming from and how they're allocated. So different headgates are set up in different zones or areas.
So it's not a pass fail. It's just more clarification of which gate.
Correct. Yeah. Do the 7 water shares come from the right headgate that feeds this property and not some property out in Loma or Mac?
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions relating to either one of these items?
Just I'm excited to see something other than single family dwelling.
All right, I'm not hearing any other ones. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 2022-17 annexing appropriately 4.99 acres, approximately, 4.99 acres of property located at 1834 J Road.
Second.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
All right, and then do we have the second motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2022-18, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fruita by zoning approximately 4.99 acres of property located at 1834 J Road to a community residential zone.
Second.
Counselor Bremen,
First of all, thank you for making the font large enough. Yes.
Mr. Purser,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. Well, thank you for being here tonight. You can stay for the rest of the meeting. We're not going to kick you out, but most of the time people run for the door. So with that, we're going to move into our next ordinance. And so we've got ordinance 2022-19, which is a second reading. And so we've got our city planner, Henry Hempel, here to present on this one as well.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I will be combining the presentations for ordinance 2022-19 and 22-20. Both are second readings. The first one is second reading of an annexation. This one is located at 1024-19 Road. The property owner, 1024-19 Road LLC, has requested approval to annex approximately 15 acres into the city limits. A legal notice, and just for the record, not to be redundant, but this is set forth in state statute and in our land use code. All have been satisfied to date leading up to this second reading. Our land use code requires a 15-day minimum prior to the first public hearing, which was the planning commission meeting in June. And all the other noticing requirements have been as well as set forth in state statute. Again, to touch on legal notice, we are required to, this one's in our code, are required to send out legal notice postcards within 350-foot radius of the subject property. On occasion, 350 feet doesn't get 20 unique properties, which is also called out. So we branch out even more until we get there. And so with this one, because the parcels are so large nearby, we had to branch out a bit further to reach the 20 unique property owners to satisfy that requirement. And then we are also required by our code to place legal notice postings on the property. They're the blue signs that you often see out and about. Those are along 19 Road at the corner of 19 and J and 210th Road to get both traffic areas. Here's a zoning map. Recently or earlier this year, in January or February, we annexed the property to the west, known as the Weston annexation. That was kind of a two-step process plus 3 zonings to give you that community residential zone district right there, which I'll touch on in our master plan, is supported in that our future land use map. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject property. There's a dwelling unit on the southeast or southwest corner of the subject property along 19 Road, and it's bordered on the north by J and 210th Road alignment. Our future land use map is what we use quite frequently to make decisions as staff or recommendations. You can see here zoomed in that bold line, that bold dotted line, that's our urban growth boundary. And you can see it's right there on the edge, J and 210th and 19 Road. Anything north of that's not necessarily supported in our urban growth boundary, but anything south of that in that darker yellow color is supported. And the residential 4 to 8 dwelling units per acre is codified in our code as community residential. So that's where our future land use map and our master plan are with support of this annexation request. The code calls out 9 criteria in section 17.17.050A. All or most of these have been met or can be met with regards to the approval criteria and the recommendation. More detail obviously is considered in the staff report materials that you have, and I'd be glad to answer any specific questions that you may have as we move forward with discussion on these, but all have been or can be satisfied at this time. Public comments have not been received to date regarding this annexation request, and no reviewer expressed any concerns with this annexation. Staff does recommend approval of the annexation with the condition that there be dedication of additional right-of-way along J and 210th Road, 19 Road, and a 14-foot multi-purpose easement along those rights-of-ways. The call out for the width is contained in the ordinance as a condition, so you don't necessarily need to call it out. Moving on to the rezone application, this is consolidated to avoid redundancies as we move through the process, it's not required in our code that the property be zoned immediately after it's annexed. But it makes a lot of sense to do it together. This is ordinance 2022-20. It's a second reading of the ordinance. Land development application 2022-21. This is Adele's acre rezone. This is to zone approximately 15 acres at 102419 Road to a community residential zone. Just for the record, the legal notice requirements have been met. We sent out postcards to 20 unique properties surrounding the subject property to let them know what's going on. And we placed legal notice signs in front of the property again to let people know there's a development application pending for review. Zoning map here shows the proximity of adjacent zonings that are in the city limits in relation to the kind of the white properties. Those are unincorporated Mesa County zoning designations. To the south east is URR, which allows the county to approve subdivisions that have large lots, 1 acre, those types of developments. So we're seeing here urban growth boundary kind of going up against the kind of Mesa County growth area. Aerial photograph of the subject property. Again, you can see its proximity to 19 Road and J and 2/10. Future land use map does recommend a community residential zone for this area and is supported within our urban growth boundary on the south side of that. There are 5 criteria that need to be considered. Only 2 need to be met for rezone applications. Compatibility with surrounding land uses that are supported in our land use code and our master plan need to be considered. Those have been reviewed by staff and the planning commission, and the community residential zone is the supported zone district for this area. No other zone districts are supported within that guiding document. And then the second one that has been met as the zoning amendment is incidental to the annexation application, and the proposed zoning is consistent. It has been found consistent with the city's goals, policies, and master plan as well. No written public comments have been received to date. No reviewer expressed any concerns with this application, and staff does recommend approval of the request to zone the property to community residential. Here are the suggested motions contained in on those pages as shown in the council packet. Be glad to throw this back up when it's time to discuss these, but that concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
All right, is the applicant here to present? All right, if you'd please step up and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Courtney Patch with River City Consultants, and I'm here representing the property owners. As Henry described to you, we are requesting to annex and rezone the 15 acres at 1024-19 Road to community residential. And we haven't received any public comment or concerns, so we don't have any additional comments, but if you have questions, please let me know.
All right, we will. We're going to open up to public comment first, and then if anybody has questions, we'll bring it back to you. All right, with that, we're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on this, either one of these 2 items? All right, I'm not hearing any. Do you have anybody online, Shannon?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to council. Are there any questions, comments related to this one?
I sort of have a side question.
Go ahead.
isn't
Yeah.
Completely relevant. Who's Adele? Very good. Nice. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm new at this, and so bear with me if this is whatever, touching on things that should not be touched on, but so it's outside of our boundary. I see that it's very close to where we're wanting to be. But precedence wise, what keeps us from keeping on pushing? And maybe that's not a time, maybe this is not the time to discuss that question. And that's what I'm unsure of, but
I can touch on it is within our urban growth boundary. Anything north of that is not suggested to be supported moving forward. A lot of those elements, when we were discussing the future growth boundary or urban growth boundary, a lot of things that were considered were like the infrastructure needs and how we were going to be able to feed sewer adequately to certain properties. This subject property, you know, we have some interest in getting 19 Road kind of widened and improved, kind of the demands that we're seeing with new subdivisions coming along. In order to do that, you know, it makes sense to not just have one half of 19 Road, but both, and then put the utility work into question and say, hey, can we serve this with sanitary sewer? And Sam can touch on this a little bit. He's joined with the sewer question, but yes, that's why that urban growth boundary kind of abuts J and 2/10 Road on the north side, and then, you know, incorporates 19 Road as well.
And I could add, one thing is that development doesn't change the urban growth boundary necessarily. So as we develop it, that gets changed by council through change of the future land use map during like the comprehensive plan update. So within it, we can continue to grow, but if anything were coming outside of the urban growth boundary, that would have to be changed prior by the city council to be extended, right?
Great.
There's also a recapture area for the Highway 6 interceptor project that was completed a little while ago and connects to 19 Road down by Iron Wheel subdivision and then up north.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then do we have a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 2022-18, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fruita by zoning approximately 4.99.
Matthew, you missed 19.
Wrong one.
Yeah.
All right, let me rephrase that. Adopt ordinance 22-19, annexing approximately 15.05 acres of property located at 1024 19 Road into the city of Fruita. Sorry about that.
All right. We have a second?
Second.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Go on to the next one, Matthew. You already had it half done.
Want me to read it for you?
Fine. I move we adopt. I can't blame it on the font either. Adopt ordinance 2022-20, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fruita by zoning. Did I screw this up?
No, no.
We all saw it, you didn't.
All right, zoning map of the city of Fruita by zoning approximately 15.05 acres of property located at 1024 19 Road to community residential zone.
I second.
Thanks, Henry.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
All right, well, thanks for being here tonight. Look forward to another subdivision or some more stuff going into Fruita here. So with that, we're going to move into, we do not have anything on our administrative agenda, so we're going to move into our city manager's report.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just a few updates tonight. First of all, we did send an email out to you all, and there's been communication to the public as well regarding waste management. And I just wanted to cover that briefly and see if there were any questions. As you know, since the last time we spoke at the retreat, the letters had already gone out about the pilot program, but we were still trying to work out some of the details. Fortunately, we feel like we've been able to work those out in a good manner. So there's about 2,100 residences that are in this pilot program that are being delivered 96 gallon trash containers or rollouts. And because our current contract with Waste Management allows for unlimited if it's put in a container, some people don't realize that. It's always been that way. They've been really good about just picking it up if it's in a bag, but whenever you sign up for your trash service with the city or any of the communications for many years, must be in a container. Typically it was small. It was listed at 32 gallon containers and no larger. Many people have larger, many people put them in bags, and they've continued to pick that up. So that's not necessarily a change, but just something that's always been in writing. So what we were able to work out is that if somebody has more trash than they can fit in their 96-gallon container during this pilot program and the duration of the contract with Waste Management, they are able to put out a container. I feel like this is going in and out. Speak. And so that was one of the concerns. We had one large neighborhood that Village at Country Creek that they had a majority of residents that were more interested in having a one. So we've worked that out to where they'll receive a 64-gallon unless they request a 96-gallon. So as part of but with the same terms, the price does not go up. That we do have quite a few customers who have really chosen over the years to have a 96-gallon rollout, and part of the contract that was it's a higher cost, and but those who have it will all the same cost as whether you're in the pilot program or not. Service.
So you got that changed. So if somebody wants to throughout the whole city, if they want a 96, they can now request it and their bill won't go up. Is that what I just heard you say?
What I'm saying is the people that are in the pilot program or already have it, they have the same price, the lower price that is across the board. I'm not quite sure yet if someone volunteers outside of the area, because this is a concentrated, route specific.
Right.
But we did not want, I imagine it would be the same. I just we haven't ran into that yet, but yes, it is the same. Okay. So it's across the board, the same price, even if someone volunteers to have it outside of the
running
area.
those trucks, because it's a truck that can pick up the container, right? So are they only running those trucks within that pilot route? Or are those the trucks that are running everywhere?
You're gonna have to get up and speak at the microphone so those online hear
Sorry.
you. Thanks, Margaret.
Since we had the contract, this has been an option that people have had, is to have the 96-gallon carts throughout the city. So those trucks are already running throughout the city. This will just kind of concentrate, make it more efficient for waste management, pick up trash in a concentrated area with that pilot program, and also kind of introduce it to residents of Fruita, and obviously in other areas of the country have had it for decades. But this will kind of we've also had huge amounts of interest from people outside the pilot area. When can I get mine? And they're available for anybody that wants them, but they do need to call the office and sign up.
Okay, but then we don't know if their rates will go up. If
No,
The rates will,
they will not.
this contract period, the rates will stay the same. Unless they decide to get an extra cart to put their trash in, and then there is an additional charge for those,
That's for the cart, not for the trash pickup.
for the cart. Correct.
When is the contract up?
I think it's 2024. Is that correct, Shannon?
It's a 4-year contract, so it ends in 2023, but we do have the option to renew for, I think, a 2-year term up to 2 times.
What do we do? Quite frankly, I mean, I have really nice rolling trash cans. What do we do with those?
So in the letter that you received, there's stickers if you want to get rid of them, only if you want to get rid of them, but you can put them to the curb just next week, the week of the 22nd, and you put the sticker on them and they will take them and haul them away as trash. Otherwise, it's up to you what you do with them.
I'll take your old ones because they're probably in better shape. How's that? I'll take them off your hands.
Some people want to keep them around because if you have extra trash and want to put it, need to fill something, and put more out, you can do that for the remainder of this term.
Shannon, you mentioned that we can renew the contract. Is that as it sits? So we can renew it with unlimited up to 2 times? Or is that not going to work?
They would, both parties would have to agree on the renewal. So it
it's-
opens.
You can renew it, but it's the same. Okay.
Yeah. I think we mentioned it before, but it was a big surprise when we went out to bid last time that there was even an option. Republic is another large provider that's now purchased multiple smaller providers in the area. So we we're not sure, but we anticipate having, two large providers bid on the next round. But it's very uncommon to not have these rollouts anymore. We don't anticipate the likelihood of bids similar to what we've had in the past.
My only other question is the concern of like, if you're smaller or not stronger, elderly and managing a 96 gallon. So did all of those residents, I mean, have we done enough to communicate out to our senior population that they don't have to have the 96? Is it just the flyer that went out and then our various communiques as well? Or have HOAs been trying to reach out to their people in their HOAs, or, I just want to make sure that we don't have some.
Yeah, in particular in this pilot program, the village at Country Creek was included, which has a number of senior residents, elderly residents that may not need or want or be able to handle those 96 gallon carts. So we did send a letter to everybody in the HOA.
Okay.
I think y'all received a copy of it. That by default will deliver the 64 gallon carts. They can still have a 96 gallon cart, but they need to request that. But it sounded like from the contacts from the HOA that the prevalence of the number of people there wanted the smaller carts. We had a little bit of an issue in that Waste Management had some supply issues with that. So that whole area of Village at Country Creek is not going to be implemented on this pilot program until about 2 or 3 months when they have the sufficient number of the 64 gallon carts to deliver all at once.
Okay.
And the same with anybody else in town that wants a smaller, they don't want the 96 gallon cart. They have a limited supply right now, but they're bringing more in so they can sign up for that. But depending on supply, they could have to wait for a little bit to get the actual delivery.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mike, or any more comments for us on that? No.
I don't think so, unless there's any questions related to that. I know we had planned to maybe discuss that at the workshop, but not sure we need to add that on at this point unless you all would like to talk more about it.
You want to talk more trash?
All right, we did receive a letter today that was addressed both to me and then to the city council, and I will scan it and email it and send it out so everybody can have it. It was a letter anonymously from a resident related to quite a few locations where they identified throughout the city where private properties have weeds that have grown too high. Staff is already working on identifying those locations. There were 17. And so staff is working on making contact with all of those locations. I wish we could contact down. We don't have a code compliance officer at the moment.
One needs a part-time job.
We're getting close to recruiting. We're reevaluating some of the pieces. It's a full-time job, but it's part-time code compliance and part-time planning technician. And Jesse Hess was in that, and he just recently took another job here in Fruita. Not with the city, but in the community. And so we're getting ready to be recruiting. So right now, that means we're doing our best to keep up with those as they come in during the busy season for weeds. And that's being shared by Henry and Kelly and Dan on top of many other duties. So we'll soon be recruiting for that. But I will forward that to you. So you received it. We just received one, but it was addressed to all of council. And then just a reminder of the board and commission appreciation night that's coming up on the 25th. Our contract with, it is a public-private partnership with Imandi Wake Zone, and we own the lake that they lease from the city. And part of that contract allows for up to 2 events like this at no charge to the city. But we will be providing dinner. So this is for all boards and commission members, their families, for serving throughout the year. All the city council and all the staff liaisons to those boards and commissions. You should have received an email invite and please RSVP to that so we can have a good head count coming prior to. But there will be dinner served, and then there's quite a variety of activities to be able to do, or just mingle and communicate, have a chance to spend time with each other. But it's open to family members of all those who are serving in those capacities. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was workshops. So at the retreat, we talked about 2 housing workshops and breaking that into 2 pieces. As we reviewed that and the guests that we need to have at those workshops are it would be good to have for both of those topics. As we've kind of talked through it, I think we'll have a two-part, but it'll be a one workshop. And scheduling wise, it worked for all of our out-of-town guests coming. D. Weiser with Butler Snow and the representatives from EPS to be here in person for the 30th, that 5th Tuesday. So we do not need to spend time on that subject next week for what would normally be our normal workshop. We do have a couple follow-up items from the workshop that we could discuss. It'd probably be a shorter workshop, and the potential of having a executive session scheduled as a separate meeting prior to or at the beginning of the workshop. So looking at that, and then on the 30th, we'll have quite the full housing discussion, both the EPS report and then also working on the bylaws as well. And then the September workshop, we will come back to you with more of a final draft to discuss, and you'll have it ahead of time to review of the strategic plan resulting from the recent retreat last week with City Council, and then a budget overview. So that's when we kind of kick off the budget process. And so we'll talk about those together as they go very, very well together. So one of the follow-up items is to discuss boards and commissions. And I just want to get any feedback if you wanted to do that as soon as next week, or if you'd like to attach that to the September when you can kind of tie it to, the final review of the strategic plan and the budget. I think it could be done either way, but wanted to see if depending on timing, if you had a preference to that.
What do you want to do? What do you mean by that?
At the retreat, we talked about having one of the items that we didn't get to was discussing, the purpose of each of the boards and commissions and tying them to the strategic plan. If there's not an urgency in timing with a month or two, I would recommend we do it in September tied to that review of the strategic plan. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something we have room on next week's workshop if need be, but I would recommend in September unless there was an urgency from any of the council members.
What is on next week's workshop?
We'll probably be talking about some of the reorganization or addition in services to the planning and development department. We want to go back over some of that in regards to what we're looking at doing with code compliance, how we work with the building inspections and the building department with Mesa County, and kind of give you a little more data and review of what we've been looking into with that.
That'd only be one item, correct?
I believe so, yeah. Aside from if we have any proclamation requests and things like that. That's everything for tonight.
So both the 23rd and the 30th are both at 6:30. Just want to make sure I have them.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I want to make sure.
Good to be planned for it. All right. With that, then we're going to move into our council reports and actions. Anybody want to start?
I'll start. Do we know if we got the grant for Parks and Rec for Reed Park yet? Have we heard?
Find out on the 17th, tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I was thinking we knew. So
At least we
Parks and Rec, that was
anticipate finding out tomorrow if we are moving. The way GoCo works is you're invited to move to the final process, but that means you're receiving the grant and moving forward. So tomorrow we hope to hear good news.
Yeah. So I met I believe, daughter or granddaughter of Mr. Reed, who sold us the Reed Park property at Farmers Market, just kind of random.
Oh, great.
Last Saturday. And was telling her that, we're waiting for this grant and we hope it goes through and some of the improvements that we're starting to make and stuff. So maybe we can, invite her and her family for the grand opening or something. She was showing me some pictures of the ribbon cutting for Reed Park. That happened about like 46 years ago. It was really cool. And then I missed the Arts and Culture Board because I had a family emergency. So.
All right. Thanks, Heather. You want to go next? No?
I don't have anything.
All right.
None of mine got together.
Janine?
Yeah, we had our downtown advisory board meeting last week, and we had, after the summer was slow as far as being able to even run a full meeting because we just weren't able to have a lot of our members. We had a full meeting. All the members were there. It was very productive. Ciara joined us as the staff liaison. She's now our staff liaison for that board, and she did a great job. And we were able to show that board the concept drawings that we got for Mulberry, and talked about the tweaks that we suggested from that. But the board was really excited about that, and also they're kind of jazzing up. But we have a new board president. Jared Prochnow is now the board president for the Downtown Advisory Board, and so I'll just maintain my role as council liaison instead of trying to wear both of those hats. And they had a great conversation about really coming together with all the businesses. So there's going to be a lot of talk to businesses from that board about deeming one particular night a week as locals night and working together. Lots of businesses do that on their own, but this idea of like one specific night that is Fruita Locals night. So depending on the business's responses, that might be coming our way. Anyways, it was like an energizing, it was a very good Downtown Advisory Board meeting.
Did they have any other suggestions about the Mulberry Street?
No, they really liked it, how it was. They asked about the movie screen and all of that. So we told them that we, for all sorts of reasons that the council suggested not to occur, but they weren't heartbroken about that. It was just something they had heard about. Again, all of the people on that board are really excited about that idea. So that's it.
Matthew.
Fruita Chamber met last week. Similar discussions about Mulberry. Everybody's generally excited. The movie screen did come up, and I suspect it was the same discussion. In terms of events, August 26th is the final fourth Friday food truck. September 23rd is Fruita Fall Festival. And when looking at membership and numbers, actually year to date, they are up 46 members. Starting to look at locations for the annual banquet. And the good news is space is going to be an issue because they want to grow it. And the bad news is space is going to be an issue because they want to grow it. So that's it.
Thank you. I didn't have any meetings. I have a few things, and Mike and I discussed one. I don't know if I think Matthew and Heather were in that discussion. Lori brought up when she was on council about having an award for local citizens or businesses that really portray uniqueness or something that makes Fruita what Fruita is. And I know Lori presented the one to Coloramo on how nice that building looked and all that. And Mike and I chatted a little bit because I wanted to see about giving one to Jeff Bates for all the artwork and what he's done in our community. And so I think that's on his list on kind of looking at what a date would be and kind of making sure Jeff was here to accept that and do probably a proclamation at the same time. Since we have to do proclamation approvals through all of you guys, I just wanted to bring that out, and also just to keep on top of mind awareness. If there's somebody in the community that we feel has just gone above and beyond, I think it's a great way to recognize them and say that. And I just feel like for decades to come, the impact of what he's done in our community, I think, is going to play a big role. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to that or no.
If that's something you all feel good about. I mean, we've kept that from being some very strict criteria and more at your guidance of, hey, we just want to recognize someone for something, and they get the metal gear that's been, a large one that they can put on their wall or whatever, but do a proclamation with this as well. So we can coordinate with Jeff and find out when a good time would be and get it on a future agenda.
Had a great news story on him on
Mhm.
KT or 11 News, either one, I think both, just the other night. So yeah, I think that's great. That would be fantastic.
Oh, that's all I've been. And then Mike and I have a meeting at Monument Ridge Elementary School in 2 weeks just to talk about local government and what's involved in that. And so it's fun to do some of those once in a while. So especially that age. I haven't done one with that age yet. I've done it with the high school, but it's
We got third graders.
So I don't know how well they'll listen, but it'll be interesting. They're just going, yeah.
Small chunks of information at a time with
Yeah.
lots of wiggling in between.
I thought maybe if we had some ice cream left over from the.
Or chart for
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I'm sure we'll go.
Yeah.
They asked about the form of government and how it works was what we.
So
We-
Mike and I are gonna wear white wigs and go in there, but so we've got that coming up too. So that's one of the fun things we get to do in the community, but other than that, that is all I have.
I
to
forgot
report on.
2 things. I'm playing Ken.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, Ken's not here, so you can take his time.
Yeah. For Fruita Fourth Friday's last Fourth Friday is August 26th, and it's going to be here at Civic Center Park instead of at Mulberry because it's going to be a bigger deal. Which we just approved, so you guys should have gathered that. But that is happening on the 26th from 5 to whenever. And then Mike and I got to do a community engagement today at Wave right before our meeting, and that went well too. That was fun.
All right. Anybody want to fill in for Amy? No. All right, with that, then the next thing we have on our agenda is we've got an executive session scheduled. And so that's the discussion of possible action to consider a motion to convene an executive session regarding personnel issues under CRS section 24-6-4024F for the city manager's annual informal review. So we'll need a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we move into executive discussion for discussion and possible action to consider a motion. Wait, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Okay, I'm just gonna read it. It's gonna be fine. I move that we start a discussion of a personnel matter under CRS section 24-6-4024F and not involving any specific employees. Is that it?
That is what it says, but
Mary Elizabeth wants to read this one. Okay, I'm going. Okay, any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees, city manager's informal review. There are all sorts of punctuation errors in this. It's very irritating. Sorry, but there.
Do we have a second on that?
I second.
Yes, with respect to the punctuation.
Yes.
Sure.